Hello, and welcome back to YouTube channel Health News Today. Today's video is going to be very informative and interesting because we are going to talk about gut flora, its relationship with obesity. We will also discuss some effective ways to avoid gut flora. In the end, we will discuss foods that are essential to weight loss and maintaining a healthy gut. If you want to find out more about the microbiota in your gut, keep watching this video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Without wasting any time, let's talk about intestinal flora. The human intestine is a complicated ecosystem that is kept alive by the interactions of a wide variety of species of microbiota, the human body, and the substrates that are consumed. It is believed that the number of bacterial cells that colonize the human intestine is greater than the number of human cells that are found in the rest of the body. There are between 10 and 100 trillion bacteria living inside the intestine, and these bacteria belong to at least 15,000 different species and 10 different phyla. Microorganisms, such as bacteria and other organisms that are resident within the intestinal tract. They facilitate the digestive process. The intestinal microflora is responsible for the production of vitamins such as biotin and vitamin K. Intestinal flora, microflora, gut flora, and microflora are all synonyms for the same thing. In the past few years, there has been a steady accumulation of evidence pointing to a significant connection between the bacteria that live in the intestines and one's overall health. Researchers are currently focusing their attention on the potential link that exists between the variety of gut flora and an increased risk of obesity-related conditions as well as persistent inflammation. It would appear that individuals who have fewer bacterial species in their gut are more likely to experience mild inflammation in the digestive tract as well as throughout the body. This can increase the likelihood of developing complications such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Now that you have an understanding of intestinal flora, let's discuss the connection between the two and obesity. It is well known that bacterial lipopolysaccharides, also known as LPS, can cause inflammatory responses. The LPS molecule acts as a receptor for the CD14 molecule, which is responsible for mediating these responses. The majority of circulating LPS comes from the flora that lives in the intestines. Alterations in the microflora of the bowel can have an effect on LPS levels. When mice are fed a high-fat diet for 4 weeks, the levels of LPS in their intestines rise in direct proportion to the number of bacteria there that produce LPS. An increase in LPS levels can occur in humans after as little as 3 days of consuming a diet high in fat. Antibiotics lower levels of LPS in mice that have been fed a diet high in fat. Antibiotics were shown to be effective in lowering inflammatory markers and improving intestinal permeability in this animal model. Antibiotic treatment resulted in improvements in glucose intolerance, as well as in weight gain and visceral adipose tissue reduction. The observation that patients with short guts and documented intestinal bacterial overgrowth have elevated LPS levels provides support for the hypothesis that LPS plays a role in human disease. Within this patient group, a higher LPS level is correlated with a more severe form of liver disease caused by TPN. There is growing evidence that the intestinal microbiota play a role in the development of an inflammatory response that is associated with obesity. It would appear that intestinal bacteria have an effect on a number of the factors that play a role in the development of non-alcoholic steatohepatitis in humans. Alterations in bowel flora have been shown to have a correlation with changes in fatty acid synthesis, insulin resistance, levels of C-reactive protein, and VLDL production. One of the primary mechanisms that play a role in the improvement of insulin-mediated fat deposition is the action of short-chain fatty acids, which are generated by microbiota and act through the GPR43 receptor. A similar correlation has been found between probiotics and the makeup of the flora in the intestinal tract and risk factors for cardiovascular disease. The study of obesity has only recently begun to focus on the microbiota of the intestinal tract. When it comes to testing and analyzing intestinal microbiota, there are a lot of methodological questions that need to be answered. However, new insights bring with them a number of intriguing questions that could be answered by further investigation in the future. The current assessment of the caloric value of food has been called into question because energy harvest is dependent on the bacterial flora that is present. According to models that incorporate concepts from metagenomics, The calorie content of food can vary from person to person because the amount of energy harvested depends on the composition of an individual's bowel flora. It is obvious that aspects of the host, such as diet, can have an effect on the microbiota, and the microbiota, in turn, can have an effect on the host. Despite the fact that studies on animals have shed light on a number of possible mechanisms at play, very little is known about how these interactions play out in humans. It is not known whether a high-calorie diet and obesity are responsible for the negative changes in the bowel flora, or whether individual differences in bowel flora are a risk factor for the development of obesity. It is estimated that over 700 million people will be affected by the growing obesity epidemic by the year 2015. This epidemic is generally attributed to our modern lifestyle, which generally consists of increased calories and limited exercise. Studies like this one, in which the gut bacteria of 169 obese Danes and the gut bacteria of 123 non-obese Danes were compared, suggest that the risk of medical complications in obese people is not only increased by the choices they make regarding their diet and their weight gain. According to the findings of the study, people who are already obese and belong to the group that was identified as having fewer intestinal bacteria are also likely to experience increased weight gain over the course of a number of years. This was found to be the case. Now that I've got your attention, you're probably wondering how we can curb obesity. The solution is actually quite straightforward. There are 6 different approaches to managing obesity. The first of these is the one that picking out foods that are better for you. Whole grains, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats, and other sources of protein, as well as beverages, can be of tremendous assistance in the fight against obesity. Restricting consumption of unhealthy foods. You need to stay away from foods that are bad for your health, such as refined grains and sweets, potatoes, red meat, processed meat, and sugary drinks. Enhancing one's level of physical activity. Running and other forms of consistent exercise are effective means of warding off obesity. Don't be too lazy. Be sure to limit the amount of time you spend in front of the television, your screen time, and any other sit time. Improving sleep. To combat obesity, you should aim to get between 6 and 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Stress reduction. One of the most important contributors to obesity is stress. In order to avoid becoming obese, you should make every effort to minimize your exposure to stress. If you want to change the way you think about food and eating, getting psychological support from a trained healthcare professional who can help you make those changes may be beneficial to you. If making changes to your lifestyle isn't enough to help you lose weight, your doctor may suggest that you take a medication called orlistat. This medication is effective in lowering the amount of fat that is absorbed by the body during digestion if it is taken as directed. Your primary care physician will be the best person to advise you regarding the use of orlistat. In rare cases, weight loss surgery may be recommended. That was all for today's video. I hope you have liked today's video. You can share with us your views about today's topic in the comment section. And if you are new to the channel, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any future videos we upload.